Hollow Creek Manor, Part 1. The house that has waited for 200 years. Original horror story. You won't be able to sleep, but on the third night, if you make the mistake of opening that door, no one will ever see you again. This legend began exactly 200 years ago. Deep within the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia lies a forgotten road called Hollow Creek Road. It no longer appears on modern maps. GPS devices stop working. Phone signals disappear. The trees grow so thick that sunlight barely reaches the ground. After sunset, even the locals refuse to speak its name, because at the end of that road stands an abandoned mansion, Hollow Creek Manor. It was built in 1826 by a wealthy judge named Elias Blackwood. At the time, it was considered the most beautiful mansion in the entire region. A grand wooden staircase, towering balconies, beautiful stained glass windows, and endless dark forests surrounding every side. But long before the mansion was built, the native people who once lived there gave a warning. They said, "Never wake what sleeps beneath this land." Judge Blackwood ignored the warning. The mansion was completed. His family moved in. For a few years, everything seemed perfectly normal. Then, on the night of October 17, 1830, everything changed. A violent storm rolled across the mountains. Thunder shook the valley. Then, the neighbors heard screams. Not one, not two, dozens. Men, women, children. It sounded as if every soul inside the mansion was begging for mercy. But the storm was too dangerous. No one dared leave their homes until sunrise. The next morning, the townspeople rushed to Hollow Creek Manor. The front gate was open. The horses were still tied outside. Smoke continued rising from the chimney. Everything looked normal, except the front door was locked from the inside. After breaking it open, they stepped into complete silence. The dining table was covered with fresh food. The coffee was still warm. Candles were still burning. One chair had fallen onto the floor, as if someone had stood up only seconds before. But there was no one inside. Judge Elias Blackwood, his wife, their two children, every servant had vanished. No blood, no bodies, no signs of struggle, not even a single footprint. Only one thing remained unchanged. A massive grandfather clock standing in the entrance hall. Its hands had stopped forever. At exactly 2:17 a.m., that morning marked the beginning of one of America's darkest unsolved mysteries. To this day, every October 17th, at exactly 2:17 in the morning, one window on the second floor of Hollow Creek Manor lights up, and those who have seen that light often disappear without leaving a trace. The first night, October 17th, 2026, 6 p.m., the last rays of sunlight slowly disappeared behind the Appalachian Mountains. A black SUV turned onto the forgotten road known as Hollow Creek Road. Behind the wheel was Daniel Carter, a well-known paranormal documentary filmmaker with millions of followers online. His vehicle was loaded with professional cameras, infrared night vision equipment, drones, powerful flashlights, extra batteries, and a live streaming setup. Looking into his camera, Daniel smiled confidently. "Tonight, I'm spending the entire night inside the legendary Hollow Creek Manor. Let's find out if a 200 ghost story is really true or just another myth." As the SUV drove deeper into the forest, everything began to change. His phone suddenly lost all signal. The GPS screen froze, then went completely black. A few seconds later, the car radio turned on by itself. Instead of music, a burst of loud static filled the speakers. Then, a faint whisper. Daniel couldn't understand the words. Before he could react, the radio went silent. The forest became unnaturally quiet. No birds, no insects, not even the sound of the wind. Daniel stepped out of the vehicle. An icy breeze brushed across his face. He looked around. The strange thing was, the trees weren't moving. The air touched only him. Slowly, the abandoned mansion emerged from the darkness. Hollow Creek Manor. Even after 200 years, it looked as though it had been waiting for someone. The shadow on the second floor. Daniel stood frozen for several seconds. He tried to convince himself that what he had heard was nothing more than the old house settling, just loose wooden beams, nothing else. But deep inside, his heartbeat was beginning to race. He slowly raised his flashlight toward the staircase once again. Nothing, only darkness. Trying to remain calm, Daniel looked into the camera and forced a smile. I know everyone watching is expecting ghosts, but so far, everything seems completely normal. The moment he finished speaking, asterisk, asterisk, bang. Its shattered windows resembled empty black eyes staring into the night. Daniel walked toward the front entrance. As he placed his hand on the old wooden door, he heard a single knock. From the other side, knock. He froze. There shouldn't have been anyone inside. He listened carefully. Nothing. Trying to calm himself, he laughed at the camera. Old houses make strange noises. That's completely normal. The moment he finished speaking, the front door slowly opened on its own. A cold, damp smell drifted out from the darkness. Daniel switched on his flashlight and stepped inside. Dust floated through the beam of light. Cobwebs covered the walls. Everything looked frozen in time. Directly in front of him stood the enormous grandfather clock. Its hands remained motionless. 2:17 a.m., exactly as every legend had claimed. Daniel moved closer. This has to be the famous clock, he whispered. What are the chances it still stopped at exactly the same time? He didn't realize that at that very moment, someone was watching him from a second-floor window. Daniel slowly began exploring the entrance hall. Every step echoed through the empty mansion. The wooden floor creaked beneath his feet. It almost sounded as if the house itself were breathing. Then, from somewhere upstairs, he heard it. A little girl, laughing. Soft, slow, almost playful. Daniel stopped walking. He aimed his flashlight toward the staircase. Nothing. The stairs were empty. No movement. No sound. He took another step. Just then, one of his cameras briefly flickered. When Daniel later reviewed the footage, he would discover something terrifying. For less than a single second, a pale little girl, wearing a white dress, had been standing at the top of the staircase, silently watching him. Daniel never saw her with his own eyes, but the camera did. The front door slammed shut with a deafening crash. Daniel spun around in panic. He rushed toward the entrance and grabbed the handle. He pulled once, twice, again and again. The door wouldn't move. It felt as though someone on the outside was holding it shut. Daniel took a deep breath. It's just an old door, he whispered to himself. But even he no longer believed those words. Then, from somewhere upstairs, he heard it again. Asterisk, asterisk, tap. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, tap. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, tap. Asterisk, asterisk. Slow footsteps. Someone was walking across the second floor. Daniel aimed his flashlight toward the top of the stairs. Nothing. The staircase was empty. Yet the footsteps continued. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Gathering every bit of courage he had, Daniel began climbing the stairs. Each wooden step creaked beneath his weight. Halfway up, an icy gust passed right beside him. He quickly turned around. No one was there. Yet his breath had become visible in the freezing air. The temperature inside the mansion had dropped without warning. When Daniel reached the second floor, he found himself standing in a long, narrow hallway. Old wooden doors lined both sides. Every one of them was closed. At the very end of the hallway stood a little girl. She wore a faded white dress. She was barefoot. Her long black hair covered her face. She didn't move. She simply stood there, waiting. Daniel swallowed hard. Hello? Are you okay? No answer. He slowly took another step forward. The little girl gently lifted her head. Daniel felt every muscle in his body freeze. Her eyes were completely black. No whites. No pupils. Only endless darkness. Her lips slowly moved. In a whisper barely louder than the wind, she spoke. You should leave. Before Daniel could answer, every door along the hallway suddenly burst open at the same time. Asterisk, asterisk, crock. The sound echoed through the mansion. Each room beyond the doors was pitch black. Daniel couldn't see anyone, but he felt something. Someone was standing inside every room. Watching him, his hands began to shake. He pointed his flashlight back toward the little girl. She was gone. Only an old cloth doll remained on the floor where she had been standing. Daniel stared at it in silence, without anyone touching it. The doll's head slowly turned until it was facing him. Daniel stepped backward. Then, a cold breath touched his right ear. A voice whispered, so close it was almost inside his head. You came far too late. The forbidden room. Daniel stood frozen. The whisper he had heard beside his ear was so clear. It sounded as if someone had been standing directly behind him. He spun around and panicked. No one. The hallway was empty. Only dust drifted slowly through the beam of his flashlight. Trying to calm himself, Daniel looked into the camera. It has to be the wind. Old houses can play tricks on your mind. But even as he said those words, he didn't believe them. Suddenly, the screen of one of his cameras began to flicker. For a single second, it showed Daniel standing in the hallway. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood several silent figures. They wore black clothing. Their faces were unnaturally pale. None of them moved. They simply stared at him. Daniel instantly turned around. The hallway was empty. When he looked back at the camera, the figures were gone. His heartbeat grew faster. Then, one of the doors at the end of the hallway slowly creaked open. A faint golden light spilled into the darkness. It was the only light anywhere inside the mansion. Daniel hesitated. Every instinct told him to leave, but the front door had already trapped him inside. There was nowhere else to go. Slowly, he walked toward the open doorway. The room beyond was small. It looked like a child's bedroom. Old wooden toys were scattered across the floor. Faded family photographs hung on the walls. In one corner stood an antique wooden cradle. Beside it rested a tiny music box. Without warning, the music box began to play by itself. A slow, melancholy lullaby echoed through the room. It sounded like a mother singing her child to sleep. Daniel felt a chill spread through his entire body. He carefully approached the cradle. It was empty, yet it was gently rocking, back and forth, back and forth. Each movement became stronger than the last. Daniel slowly raised his flashlight and looked inside. The music stopped instantly. Silence, complete silence. Then, something moved beneath the cradle. A tiny hand slowly reached out from underneath. It looked like a child's hand, but the skin was unnaturally pale. Its fingers were long and ended in dark, cracked fingernails. Daniel stumbled backward in horror. Then, a little voice came from beneath the cradle. "Where is my mother?" Daniel couldn't answer. His throat had gone dry. The voice came again. This time, closer, softer, colder. "Have you seen my mother?" At that exact moment, the bedroom door slowly began to close. Daniel ran toward it before he could reach the doorway. Asterisk, asterisk, bang. The door slammed shut. The room fell into darkness, and Daniel realized he was no longer alone. The mirror's curse. The bedroom door had slammed shut. Daniel threw himself against it. Once, twice, again and again. It wouldn't move. It was as if the door had become part of the wall itself. Suddenly, the temperature inside the room dropped even lower. His breath turned into white mist. Then, he heard it. Asterisk, asterisk, knock. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, knock. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, knock. Asterisk, asterisk. The sound was coming from somewhere inside the room. Daniel slowly raised his flashlight. In the far corner stood a massive antique mirror. It was covered in dust. Its wooden frame was cracked with age. Yet, someone seemed to be knocking. From inside the glass, Daniel cautiously walked closer. At first, his reflection looked completely normal. A frightened man, holding a flashlight, trying to stay calm. But after a few seconds, something changed. Daniel remained perfectly still. His reflection did not. The figure inside the mirror slowly smiled. It wasn't a human smile. It was cold, unnatural, almost impossible. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. He tried to step backward. He couldn't. His feet felt frozen to the floor. Then, the reflection slowly lifted its hand. Instead of copying Daniel's movements, it pointed toward the darkness behind him. Daniel spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. He looked back at the mirror. His blood ran cold. Standing directly behind his reflection was the little girl. She wore the same faded white dress. Her long black hair covered most of her face. Her eyes were completely black. Daniel immediately turned around again. No one. The room was empty. When he looked back into the mirror, the girl had moved closer. Now, she was smiling, very slowly. Her lips began to move. She whispered, "Don't look behind you." Daniel's body froze, because he already had. At that exact moment, he felt an icy breath against the back of his neck. Someone was standing only inches behind him. His hands trembled, very slowly. He turned around. Nothing, no one, silence. His breathing became faster. He looked back into the mirror one last time. What he saw made him scream. He was no longer alone. Behind his reflection stood dozens of pale figures. Not one, not two, dozens. Every one of them had completely black eyes. None of them blinked. None of them moved. They simply stared at Daniel. Then all of them slowly opened their mouths at the same time. In one chilling whisper, they spoke together. It's 2:17. At that exact moment, the massive grandfather clock downstairs began to ring. Asterisk, asterisk, dong. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, dong. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, dong. Asterisk, asterisk. Each echo shook the entire mansion. The walls trembled. The floor vibrated beneath Daniel's feet. And for the first time that night, Daniel realized the curse of Hollow Creek Manor had finally awakened. The hidden basement. The final echo of the grandfather clock slowly faded, and the mansion fell into complete silence. Not the silence of an empty house, but the silence of something waiting. Daniel stood motionless. The only sound he could hear was his own heartbeat. Then, every door along the second floor hallway slowly closed by itself. Asterisk, asterisk, Kriak, asterisk, asterisk. The sound echoed through the entire mansion. At the far end of the hallway, the little girl appeared once again. She didn't speak. She simply raised one small hand and pointed toward the staircase leading downstairs. Then, she vanished into the darkness. Daniel felt as though the mansion itself was guiding him somewhere. Every instinct told him to run, but the front door was still sealed shut. There was no escape. Slowly, he walked back down to the first floor. Just as he reached the entrance hall, he heard a deep, heavy sound beneath the floor. Asterisk, asterisk. Boom, asterisk, asterisk. A few seconds later, it came again. Asterisk, asterisk, boom. Asterisk, asterisk. It sounded as if someone, or something, was striking the floor from underneath. Daniel followed the sound into the old kitchen. Everything was covered in dust. Broken shelves lined the walls. In one corner stood a massive wooden cabinet. Without warning, the cabinet slowly began sliding across the floor. By itself, Daniel stared in disbelief. Behind it, a narrow wooden door was revealed. It looked as though it had been hidden for centuries. Attached to the door was an old iron plate. Carved into the rusted metal were 4 chilling words. Asterisk, asterisk, never open this door. Asterisk, asterisk. Daniel hesitated. His hand trembled as he reached for the handle. The moment he touched it, the door slowly opened on its own. A wave of freezing air rushed out from below. Stone steps disappeared into complete darkness. Daniel switched on his flashlight and carefully began walking down. With every step, the air grew colder, heavier, harder to breathe. At the bottom, he entered a massive underground chamber. Its walls were made of ancient stone. Heavy iron chains hung from the ceiling. Strange symbols had been carved into the floor, forming a large circle in the center of the room. It looked like the site of an ancient ritual. Inside the circle stood an old wooden chair. Rusted chains still hung from its arms. Someone had once been imprisoned there. Daniel whispered into the camera, "This isn't a basement. This is something else." He slowly turned his flashlight toward the wall. Thousands of scratches covered the stone. Most of the writing had faded with time, but one sentence remained perfectly clear. Asterisk, asterisk, don't believe them. They are not dead. Asterisk, asterisk. A cold chill ran through Daniel's body. The moment he finished reading the words, he heard the sound of chains dragging across the floor. Asterisk clink, asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk clink, asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk clink, asterisk, asterisk. Very slowly, he turned around. The wooden chair, which had been empty only moments before, was no longer empty. Someone was sitting in it. Their head hung low. Long black hair covered their face. Their wrists were locked in heavy iron chains. Daniel stepped backward in terror. Then, the figure slowly lifted its head. Daniel's blood froze, because the face staring back at him was his own. The truth behind the 200-year curse. Daniel's entire body went numb. The man chained to the chair had Daniel's face, the same eyes, the same beard, the same clothes. There was only one difference. The man sitting in the chair wore a cold, merciless smile. Slowly, he raised his head. Then, in a calm voice, he said, "So, you finally made it." Daniel's voice trembled. Who are you?" The man smiled again. "I am you." Suddenly, the entire basement shook violently. Dust fell from the ancient stone walls. The iron chains hanging from the ceiling began to rattle. Then, a deep, unseen voice echoed throughout the chamber. "It's time to know the truth." Daniel's vision blurred. The basement slowly disappeared around him. A moment later, he found himself witnessing the events of October 17th, 1830. The Blackwood family sat together in the dining room. Outside, a violent storm raged across the mountains. Judge Elias Blackwood slowly stood up. Without saying a word, he led his wife, his children, and the servants down into the basement. In the center of the underground chamber, they stood inside the strange circle carved into the floor. Judge Blackwood opened an ancient black book. Its pages were filled with symbols written in an unknown language. He began reading the ritual aloud. He believed the ceremony would grant eternal life to his family. But the moment he spoke the final words, every candle in the basement went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then, black shadows began crawling from every corner of the chamber. They moved without making a sound. Within seconds, they surrounded the entire family. Their screams echoed through the mansion, but they never escaped. They didn't die. Their souls became trapped inside Hollow Creek Manor. The curse had begun. To survive, the mansion demanded a replacement. Every few years, someone new had to enter the house willingly, a living soul. When that person became trapped, one of the older souls was finally released. For 200 years, the cycle had never been broken. Daniel suddenly found himself back inside the basement. The man who looked exactly like him slowly stood up. The heavy iron chains unlocked by themselves and fell to the floor. He walked toward Daniel, smiling. "I've been waiting here for a very long time. Now, it's your turn." Daniel stepped backward in fear. Then, figures slowly emerged from the darkness, one after another. Some wore clothing from the 1800s. Others wore uniforms from the 1950s. A few still carried modern video cameras around their necks. They had all entered Hollow Creek Manor, just as Daniel had. None of them had ever truly escaped. Together, they slowly surrounded him. Every pale face stared into his eyes. Then, in one chilling whisper, they all spoke the same words. "There is no way out." Daniel turned and ran toward the staircase. But the stairs were gone. In their place, there was only endless darkness, deep, silent, and waiting. 2:17 a.m. Daniel desperately searched the darkness. The staircase he had used only moments ago was gone. It was as if it had never existed. There was nothing ahead of him except endless darkness, deep, silent, bottomless. Suddenly, his wristwatch began to beep. Asterisk, asterisk, beep. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, beep. Asterisk, asterisk. Daniel slowly looked down. The time read, asterisk, asterisk to 17 a.m., asterisk, asterisk. At that exact moment, the entire basement shook violently. Cracks spread across the ancient stone walls. Thick black smoke poured from every crack, slowly gathering in the center of the chamber. The smoke twisted, grew taller, and took the shape of a human figure, but it had no face, no eyes, no mouth, only living darkness. Every trapped soul in the basement slowly dropped to their knees. They lowered their heads, as if they were bowing before their master. Then, the dark figure finally spoke. Its voice sounded like hundreds of voices speaking at once. "I have waited for 200 years." Daniel's entire body trembled. He slowly stepped backward. The shadow moved closer. Tonight, the curse will be completed. Without warning, the strange symbols carved into the floor began glowing with a deep crimson light. Dark shadows rose from the ritual circle and crawled across the floor like living creatures. They wrapped around Daniel's feet, his legs, his waist. He tried to run. He couldn't move. It felt as though invisible hands were pulling him into the darkness. Then, the little girl appeared once again, but this time, she wasn't smiling. She was crying. Her black eyes were filled with fear. In a trembling voice, She whispered, "Run. Please. Run now. It will take you." Daniel shouted, "How? Tell me." The little girl pointed toward a narrow opening hidden between two stone walls. "That's the last way out. Hurry." Daniel used every ounce of his strength. He fought against the shadows, dragging himself toward the hidden passage. Every step felt heavier than the last. The darkness kept pulling him back. Then, the faceless figure slowly raised one arm. It wasn't a human arm. It dissolved into hundreds of black tendrils, stretching toward Daniel. The shadows grabbed him. His flashlight slipped from his hand. His camera crashed onto the stone floor. The lens remained pointed directly at the dark figure. For the first time, the camera captured its true face, where a face should have been. There were hundreds of distorted human faces, all screaming silently from within the darkness. The camera screen suddenly flickered. Static filled the display. Then, one sentence appeared. Asterisk, asterisk, recording will never end. Asterisk, asterisk. A deafening scream echoed through the basement. It wasn't the scream of one person. It sounded like thousands of trapped souls crying out together. All at once, the final battle. The entire basement was shaking. It felt as though the 200-year-old mansion was collapsing around Daniel. With every ounce of strength he had left, he dragged himself toward the narrow passage, but the living shadows still clung tightly to his legs. Every inch forward felt impossible. Then, the little girl appeared before him once again. This time, the darkness slowly faded from her eyes. For the first time in 2 centuries, they looked human, filled with tears. In a trembling voice, she whispered, "My name is Emily Blackwood." Daniel stared at her in disbelief. She continued, "I am Judge Elias Blackwood's daughter. My father wanted eternal life, but instead, he imprisoned every soul in this house." Daniel took a shaky breath. "How do I stop this?" Emily slowly placed an old silver key into his hand. The metal was ice cold. She looked into his eyes. "In the center of the basement, there is a black book. Destroy it, and the curse will finally end." At that exact moment, the faceless shadow let out a terrifying roar. The entire chamber trembled. It knew Daniel had learned the truth. From every corner of the basement, the shadows rushed toward him like a tidal wave. "Run," Emily screamed. Daniel forced himself to his feet. He sprinted toward the stone altar standing inside the ritual circle. Resting upon it was an ancient black, leather-bound book. Its pages were turning by themselves. Strange words echoed throughout the chamber, spoken in a language no human should understand. Daniel drove the silver key straight into the center of the book. For one brief second, everything became perfectly still. Then, the book began to shake violently. The stone walls cracked apart. A crimson light burst from every page. The trapped souls screamed together. For the first time, the dark entity cried out in pain. It lunged toward Daniel. At the very last second, Emily ran between them. She spread her arms wide. The creature passed straight through her. A blinding white light exploded across the basement. Daniel covered his eyes. The light grew brighter and brighter until nothing else could be seen. Several seconds later, the silence returned. Daniel slowly opened his eyes. The dark entity was gone. Emily was gone. The ancient black book had turned to ashes. Only the silver key remained, lying on the cold stone floor. Then, Daniel heard it, the sound of the mansion collapsing above him. Massive wooden beams cracked. Stone walls crumbled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Daniel realized he had only one chance left. If he didn't escape now, Hollow Creek Manor would become his grave forever. The last light in the window. Final chapter. Daniel didn't waste another second. Gripping the silver key tightly in his hand, he ran as fast as he could through the collapsing basement. Huge stones crashed from the ceiling. The ancient walls split apart. Thick black smoke poured from every crack. It was as if the mansion itself was dying. Fighting through the dust and darkness, Daniel reached the narrow passage. He climbed the stone steps, back into the old kitchen, then into the main hallway. But something was terribly wrong. Everything had changed. The broken walls looked brand new. The torn wallpaper had been restored. Hundreds of candles burned along the hallway. It looked exactly as it must have looked 200 years earlier. Slowly, Daniel heard voices. He followed the sound into the dining room. There, the Blackwood family sat peacefully around the dinner table. Judge Elias Blackwood slowly raised his head. A strange smile appeared on his face. He looked directly at Daniel. You really thought it was over? One by one, every member of the family turned toward him. They all wore the same pale smile. None of them blinked. None of them spoke. Then, their bodies slowly dissolved into black smoke. Within seconds, the room was empty once again. Daniel didn't wait. He sprinted toward the front door. This time, it was open. He burst outside into the cold night air. As he looked back, Hollow Creek Manor began collapsing. The tower crumbled. The windows shattered. The roof crashed into the darkness below. A cloud of dust swallowed the entire forest. Daniel ran until his legs gave out. He collapsed beside the old road and lost consciousness. The next morning, a rescue team found him lying near the edge of the forest. He had no serious injuries, but something about him had changed forever. Large sections of his hair had turned completely white in a single night. His cameras were recovered nearby. Investigators examined every recording. Almost every file had been corrupted. Only one video remained untouched. The footage began inside the basement. Daniel was running through the darkness. The recording suddenly froze. Then, for exactly 3 seconds, the screen showed the second-floor window of Hollow Creek Manor. Standing there was a little girl, Emily. She was smiling. Beside her stood Daniel. Slowly, he turned toward the camera. His eyes were completely black. The recording ended. No one could explain it. Several months later, official records declared Hollow Creek Manor completely destroyed. According to the authorities, nothing remained except broken stone and rotting wood. But the people living near Hollow Creek Road still tell a different story. They swear that every year, on October 2nd, at exactly 2:17 a.m., a single window glows with a warm golden light, even though the mansion no longer exists. And if someone listens carefully, they can still hear the voice of a little girl carried by the wind. We're still waiting. Perhaps the curse never truly ended. Perhaps Hollow Creek Manor never needed walls to survive. And perhaps, at this very moment, it is already waiting for its next visitor. Before you go, if you liked this scary story and want to hear more creepy stories, spooky legends, and unsolved mysteries from around the world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new nightmares. We upload brand new scary stories every week, designed to keep you breathless.